Hi guys, welcome to On the DL with Dak and Lan.
We're here to show you the practical approach to health and fitness.
Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new episode. Today we want to talk to you about comparison. And I think a lot of people, not only in the fitness industry, but in all walks of life, really struggle with this. I know, definitely when I was a lot younger, I would compare myself to, other powerlifters. It's like, oh, why is she able to lift 30 kilos more than me? Why is she able to be that good and still have all the time to do all this fun stuff, And I think we were just talking about it. The social media is definitely made a large impact of that because there's so many people for you to compare yourself to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you think back to when we were a lot younger, you didn't really have that many people to compare yourselves to. It was whoever was in the gym with you, you would compare yourself to, or whoever was at school, or whoever was da, 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 da. And we do it in all aspects of our lives. Like we look at our career and we think, how come I've only gotten to here, whereas they've gotten to there? We do it in our body shape. We do it in pretty much everything we do in our lives. So I think, obviously you and I are around the fitness community a lot. So we definitely see a lot of the body image comparisons and we see how damaging that is. And I think socials have had such a massive impact on that because, between comparing yourself to images that aren't real images, to comparing yourself against images where the person
you can Photoshop everything now. You can Photoshop videos.
Yeah. But even when it's legit, like you were saying before, Gorge, like even when it's legit, you've got your mum of 3 that can only train 3 days a week versus this little fitness model who does it for a living and spends her entire day in the gym and can obviously train 6 days a week for 2 hours a day and get away with that. And you are making that comparison because you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So you just see the picture and you say, okay, if she can do it, I can do it, not realizing or not really assessing everything else that's going on in your life that could be stopping you from achieving what they're achieving, or vice versa.
And it even happens with I don't hate on as before and after photos as much as other people. I think they have a place. And if it's not something that you want to see, unfollow the pages. We unfollow what you don't want to see, right? And I think, but on the negative, especially with comparison, I think before and after photos can have a negative impact on it because, excuse me, you see oh, she lost 10 kilos in 10 weeks. And she looks fucking amazing. And it's okay, they don't list that she went off plan a few times, that she was really hungry, that she was really moody, that maybe she lost her period. They don't list the negatives, only the positives. So when you have someone who wants to lose 10 kilos in a short amount of time and they can't do it, then they see that and well, why can't I do that? What's it? I look just like her. Why can't I get those results? And
it's that feeling of failure and that false understanding of what's going on. My favorite thing in the world with before and after photos, and you see it every single day, is the first photo. They've got no fake tan on. They're just standing there limp and black. They've got their undies in the wrong spot, this, that, and the next thing. And then in the next photo,
they're feeling themselves.
They're tanned. They're all of this sort of stuff. And then even without a 10-week transformation, you're going to look completely different in those 2 photos. I mean, that's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. It does mean that you're comparing yourself to something that's probably, it's either a misunderstood concept. So it's either that this person has put a lot more work into it than you realize, and therefore you feel bad because you think you should be achieving it doing a lot less, or vice versa, or there's a lot that has gone on behind the scenes that you're unaware of. It can be anything from tummy tucks to this, that, and the next thing. Our friend Alice, actually, did you see she posted the other day, we'll tag her in this because her account's great for this stuff, but Alice her photo was stolen by another account.
I saw that.
Before and after, and they said it was this detox thing that they were doing, or something that she'd done for 8 days and completely
like you can't lose that weight in 8 days. But once it's like comparison, people are gonna see those results, do that stupid detox tea, and be like, well, why can't I do what she did? Like
exactly right.
It kind of takes the positivity out of your process as well. Like if you're, you know, you have a specific goal and you're working with a great team around you. Like when I first started powerlifting, I was in that toxic mind frame of, you know, if I had a competition coming up, I would follow, I would look at all the people that I was competing against. I would see what they're hitting, see what I'm hitting, and kind of compare it, right? And then I got to a point where like now I'm competing in like 3 days and I have no fucking idea who is competing. I have no idea.
It allows you to focus on your process, gorgeous one, because, you know, when you're comparing yourself to other people, you're constantly missing the point. It means that you're not actually developing your own successful pathway. You're following 12 different pathways that are all somebody else's, and all probably work really well for those other people, but probably won't work well for you. It's a distraction, isn't it?
Even like comparing your own lifts to previous lifts, like even like, and I'm guilty of that too. Like I remember distinctly, like really remember, like I deadlifted 180 kilos, like this was years ago, and it was slow. And I remember watching it going, oh my God, this is trash. And now I'm like, oh my God, I deadlifted 180. I am amazing. So like, there's no comparison. There's no negativity.
No. And everyone else was already thinking that about you, but now you finally come to the party.
Yeah. It's just so strange when you can get into those really negative thought, like just the habits, the patterns that you create, like even like comparing what you eat to somebody else. You know, you see someone, which is why I hate, here's what I eat in a day. Oh my God. Like it's like you can't see that menu, compare it, do it, and then be disappointed, because like you're two different people.
Well,
like,
and also they probably don't eat that every day. You know, like if I was to do one of those posts, I guarantee you the food would be nothing like what I would normally eat.
I want to see a realistic one. I want to see a fucking thrown together messy breakfast. Like I want to see like, oh, didn't have any veggies today, like I'm just gonna have this meat and this really boring lunch. Like I want to see a realistic one, because then it's actually relatable and comparable as well. Like people, I think it just makes people feel guilty.
Oh, it absolutely does. And it does. It sets an unrealistic standard, just like we were talking about with the posed photos versus the non-posed photos, or a 10-week challenge. Yeah, 10-week challenge where you don't really know what actually went into it, but you have no choice but to compare yourself to it. But to be honest, right, like we know that we can't genuinely compare what we go through with what the next person goes through and the next person goes through, not just because of circumstance, but because people all deal with things differently. People's bodies work differently, so on and so forth. I say to people all the time, so at the moment, I eat anywhere between 36 and 3,800 calories a day. If the majority of women my size did that, they would get the complete opposite results to me, right? And of course, that's why I don't post about eating 3,800 calories a day. I don't need to. They don't need to see it. There's no real win to it for anybody. No. But if I did, and I didn't put the context out there, there would be a percentage of people that would go around and then say to their coach, well, how come she can eat that and I can't eat that? Not knowing that my thyroid is insane. But, you know, like if you're unaware of what goes on underneath, it's really difficult it's still difficult not to draw a comparison, even though you probably know you shouldn't, right? So even though there's probably a little voice in your head saying there's got to be something weird about that girl eating 3,800 calories a day, there's got to be something that makes
that can't be normal,
unusual, right? There has to be something that says that. You still want to ignore it because it's a nice thought, right? Like it's a nice thought to be able to just eat that. And people would also then think that you can eat whatever you want. And that's also not true, right? Like it's difficult to get that many calories in when you're small. You know, it's a challenge in itself. But the comparison is based on what you see on the surface. And I guess that's what we're getting down to, isn't it? If you don't actually know what has created that outcome, don't covet it because you don't know what into it.
Like ask. You know, I think the fitness industry is great because people want you to ask questions. Like if you find yourself on social media or in the gym or in just everyday life comparing yourself, like I guess take the time to break it down a little bit more. Like if you're going to go through the effort of comparing yourself to somebody else and the only outcome is for you to feel bad, like at least take the, you know, extra few minutes to think about, well, okay, is my situation different to somebody else's? Like what's the difference? Like it's like when I fucking bombed Wildcats, right? I knew exactly what I did wrong. I knew exactly what I did wrong. I didn't try and compare myself to somebody else and go, well, how did I bomb? Like somebody else did the same thing. Nobody was doing the same thing as I was. No one. Like every journey is different, you know, like you can follow the same diet, you can follow the same workout and get completely different results to somebody else. Like everyone's different. And like same as like, you know, whether it's weight loss, whether it's muscle gain, whether it's, you know, growing your deadlift, like by comparing yourself to others, you really take away the essence of the journey itself. Like
you don't get to enjoy it. It's like coveting someone else's position in their business or coveting someone else's job. Just work hard and push towards that for yourself rather than worrying about what they did and how they got there. You know, take it your own route and push hard to get there yourself. If you're wasting all this time and energy looking at who, what, where, and when, with no capability of understanding what actually happened to get that person there, what's the point? Different story if you can sit down with them and say, hey, what did you do to advance your career? By all means, go learn, ask people
100%.
questions. But don't make assumptions based on what you see because you just really don't have a clue what went on to get those people to those places. The other funny thing that goes on in our industry that I always think is entertaining is the whole PED debate, right? So people who don't use PEDs will automatically write some sort of, look, let's all admit it, at some point, if you have not been taking PEDs, you've been scrolling through Instagram and you've gone, oh, well, you know, she's on PEDs, so of course she can look like that. She's on PEDs, of course she can lift that, da-da-da-da. And we kind of use that to make ourselves feel better about what we can't do or whatever else.
Yeah.
Which is a really negative mindset to go into, isn't it? It's like, yes, some girls do just jump on PEDs and yes, it gives them some sort of an advantage, but they still have to work bloody hard to get there. The work doesn't
just take them and then bam, 300 kilo deadlift. It's like at the moment there's like it's gotten a lot quite popular on TikTok and stuff for guys to like duet a woman lifting and say like, oh, I can lift, and like they go heavier with the same exercise. And it's like, yeah, you should be lifting more than a female because you are a male. Like, it's not an achievement to outlift a female.
Oh, hilarious.
Unless you're trying to outlift like Cleo or Henderson, like they're probably outlifting most males, but like it's not an achievement to tear someone else down and say like, oh, I'm a big man and I'm stronger than a female. Like, yeah, you fucking should be.
It's
like,
such
but it's just comparison.
It's an interesting mindset, isn't it? This, you know, this need to compare everything to yourself these days. I wonder where it really originally came from. I know social media has made it worse because I know even I have had those moments where I've looked at something and I've thought it was unfair or something along those lines. Why do I have to do this to get there, or da 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 da?
Yeah.
And I know that it got worse for me with social media, and I'm barely even on social media. So I can only imagine what it's like for everyone else who's scrolling through 10 hours a day.
It definitely hit me more professionally as a coach, I think, in the beginning. Now, not so much. Like, definitely when I first started, I would be like, oh my God, that coach, you know, that coach is so successful. How come they're there and I'm not? But I was just so new. And I just, you know, I didn't deserve it. you know, at that time. I wasn't there yet, and nor was I fucking ready for it. But like, one of the things I try and tell my clients, and I think it really applies here, is like, you know, when you're learning a movement, you want to take it slower, because it allows you time to think about what you're doing. You know, if a client forgets a cue or fucks up a rep, I ask them what they're thinking about. Chances are they're not fucking thinking about anything, or they're thinking about something completely not to do with lifting at all. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, if you're not thinking about it and you're thinking about all these other things or all these other people that you're comparing yourself to, how are you focusing on the squat, or how are you focusing on what you're actually meant to be doing, which is your journey? You're not.
And it can be really demotivating. Like, if you're looking across at somebody, I'm going to take Pro Raw as an example because everyone there's strong. So when you go in to lift at Pro Raw, particularly if you're young and new to the industry, it would be really easy to look around and get, you know, see all of these girls lifting 110, 120, 150, 200 on deadlift, and be demotivated by that if you're comparing yourself to them, because you have absolutely no idea what work they've put in to get there. And some people are naturally strong, but the vast majority of people who are pulling over 150 have worked very hard for many years to actually get there. But you don't know that when you're just looking around the room. So it does distract you, and it can be a big deterrent, or it could do exactly what you were saying before, distract you from what you were doing, and therefore you're not progressing because you're too busy worrying about how they got there in the first place.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it, because I guess walking into that space or walking into a gym where everyone is stronger than you, I guess you can look at it like, oh my God, I'm so weak, I don't belong to be here. Or, you know, you could look at it from the other end and go, oh, like, this is fucking motivating. Like,
hell yeah.
Like, you don't ever want to be the strongest in the gym. Like,
that's it.
You don't.
Because then well, of course, you're not going to progress any further if you're the strongest in the gym, because what's there to chase, you know?
Exactly, yeah. What's there to chase? Who's there to push you, like, to keep you accountable?
And of course,
you need that.
It's always going to depend on the environment as well. Like, somewhere like Pro Raw, you can be lifting 50 kilos or 500 kilos. If it's your PB, everyone's going to get around you and try and motivate you and get you driven. But it could easily go the other way if it was a different environment, right? Like, it could easily go the other way in a different environment. So it's intriguing how much can influence perception and what can influence your comparison. So, you know, it's like there's always times where you'll refer to yourself, Dak, or I'll refer to myself as not as strong as we should be, or something along those lines. And you forget that we really shouldn't do that, because there are a lot of people that we want to motivate that are lifting a lot less than that. So you've got to be careful about who you're surrounded by and how you're talking about these things. Just the same way that we encourage people to talk positively about their body, they should be talking positively about their journey. Yeah.
You don't know who you're inspiring, which sounds it sounds lame, but like it's 100% true. Like, the amount of messages that I get, like, you know, I've been watching you for a while, and I'm like, why? Like, like, it's like just those little things. Like, so there's always someone that's watching. There's always someone that's watching what you're doing, whether it's, you know, watching you in your athletic field, like, or watching, you know, how you talk about your body, or, you know, your inspiring journey with nutrition. Like, there's always something. And I think it can go either way. Like, you can really undervalue yourself and your journey and go, oh, I'm nobody, like, you know, I haven't done anything. But then there's people who, you know, who look up to you and who are motivated by you. So I think it's really important to, you know, whether it's your children watching, or, you know, people around you who have a different relationship with their body, or have a different relationship with their food, and who are spending time around you, to make sure that you're, you know, obviously choosing words correctly. Like, you know, if you deadlift 200 and you're with someone who deadlifts 150 and you do 200 and you're like, oh, that's fucking trash, and here's this person like, oh my God, I just want to do it once. Like, you just like, it's just like, you know, everybody's kind of chasing different goals. And I guess you've just got to be aware of that when you are in that comparison negative mind space, really.
and why as well. Think about why you're saying these things, not only to other people but to yourself, right? Like, what benefit does that have? Talking, I do it myself. I've heard myself say it on a number of occasions where I've been doing something at the gym that for me feels unimpressive because maybe I've lifted heavier before or something along those lines. But talking myself down or saying, oh, you know, it's okay, but I've done better. What does that do? It doesn't do anything.
No, but you know, we imagine if we spoke to others how we spoke to ourselves, it would be a very bad world, like a very negative world. Like there'd be a way more wars. I think that's important. Like, and I think comparison definitely ties in with that. Like, we just need to be conscious of how we're actually speaking to ourselves, because it has a fucking impact.
It does. And it's so, for most of us, it's so subconscious or veiled in other things. Like, oftentimes you'll say, oh, this isn't that impressive because you're trying to be modest or something along those lines. And you don't intend it to be negative in any way, but it is. It's just a veil. It's just a cover up for what you're actually feeling and what you're actually thinking. That's it.
Like, the amount of, and I'm sure you get it too, like trying to force clients to actually say something positive about themselves, like to force out, like, you are amazing, like the work you're putting in is fucking amazing, like you're strong, and they're like, oh no, it's like, yeah, you are, fucking own it.
And we're sitting there in our little room so proud. And you guys are just giving us nothing.
Like there's people with undeserved confidence, but the people who don't have it fucking need it. Like, there's so many people that need it. Like, it's like people go through life really not loving themselves, and they realize too late that they wasted so long hating themselves. And I think that's, you know, comparison definitely ties in with that, and it's just reverting back to talking to yourself. Like, you know, how you speak to yourself has a huge impact, and people are listening.
One of the biggest comparisons I reckon I see, you can tell me if this happens with you as well, Dak, is when clients are a little bit older, they'll always have that goal weight of when they were like 20 years old or something, like
10 years ago when they weren't training, or when they were single, or
And it's this comparison to something that has absolutely no validity. But so many people do it that it must be just an accepted thing nowadays. So I guess we've got to break that. We've just got to take it from the subconscious, put it into the conscious, and catch yourself when you're doing it. I have friends that negatively talk about themselves, and every time they do it, I jokingly say, do I need to slap you? And it's just a cue. It's just a cue to get them to recognize that they're talking negatively, because at the end of the day, if that's how you talk about yourself, that's how others are going to start to think about you. And that might have that negative knock-on effect to other people around you that you're just not even aware of. So this whole self-love thing, you know, there's a lot of push on social media at the moment for love yourself at any size, love yourself at any place, and that is important. You really do have to work on self-love no matter where you are in your journey, and that doesn't mean that you can't chase progress. You can still want to be different, still want to be better, and still want to progress, while still thinking, I'm pretty all right how I am.
I think growth is a form of love. I think if you're, you know, I think when you're happy with yourself, you allow yourself to have that relaxed approach and actually take care in, you know, your body or your, you know, your professional life. Like, I think that definitely shows that maybe you do love yourself. But like what you were saying before, I think I think there should be a huge push on people calling out people in their life. Like, if you see someone, or you're with someone who has, you know, they're talking down to themselves, or, you know, whether they're saying they're weak, or I don't really look good today, and it's like, hey, like, do you actually mean that? Like, what's going on? Like, why do you think that's okay to talk to yourself like that? Like, call people out, because most of the time people don't realize they're doing it.
That's it. And it's still detrimental, even if they don't realize they're doing it, right? Like it's still negative, even if they're unaware of it. I reckon that should be our challenge for everyone this week. Either to recognize it when you're doing it, recognize when you're using negative self-talk and try and catch yourself in it and correct it. Or if you have friends or loved ones that you feel would benefit from it, call them out on it. Because, you know, we want to make a positive difference, right? We want to make a positive difference in our own lives and other people's lives. So why not start with how we think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely, you know, start calling people out. You know, I think it could make a more positive impact than we think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. But I think that's a fantastic spot to stop on. But yeah, definitely, like, if you have any, you know, ways that you combat the negative self-talk, or the, you know, maybe some pathways that you've kind of done in the past, definitely, like, you know, send us a message and let us know. I'd love to hear from you. But yeah, definitely, you know, comment below, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But thank you for watching, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.